segment, let's take a look at our first civilization, which is the area of Mesopotamia. We had a number of different groups settle there. It's considered our earliest civilization, and that area is also known as the Fertile Crescent due to its shape and, of course, the fertility of its soil in order to plant crops. So, before we start talking about the civilization itself, let's take a look at the geography of this region and why this was ideal for early peoples to settle there. So, this is the area known as the Fertile Crescent, and it is named that, as you see, because it does kind of create this crescent shape for the region. It is surrounded by two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates River. And early peoples all settled near rivers because they needed an easy water source to be able to access for their crops and for themselves. So most of our early civilizations, you will see, all had some kind of river access. Now, it's also bordered to the north and to the east by mountain ranges. Up in the north, you have the Taurus Mountains. Here we have the Zagros Mountains. And from these mountains ranges is where these two rivers emerge and flow all the way down into the Persian Gulf. So Mesopotamia itself, this region, was named that way because it means the land between the rivers in Greek. And so that's where we get the term Mesopotamia from. In the northern portion of the region, right, there is a flat plateau. That's what it looks like. So it's flat, but it's high in elevation since it's near those mountains. And then the southern portion of Mesopotamia is a flat plain. And so when the rivers flow from the mountains and whenever we have rains and flooding, this area definitely is very prone to flooding. So for the early people, even though these rivers were essential for surviving, they were also very unpredictable. The major thing about the rivers is that the rivers provided this rich nutrient soil known as silt, right, which was essential for agriculture. It was essential for their crops. So from these rivers, they were able to get this soil to allow them to plant all of these different crops. But the rivers were unpredictable. Sometimes it rained too much and there'd be flooding. Sometimes there wasn't enough rain in the mountainsides, and so we'd have drought. There would be no water, and there wasn't enough water within the rivers to be able to provide what they needed for their crops. So the people needed to find a way to control the water. How could we control the waters so that it helps us and aids us rather than us being at the mercy of what happens with the water through the year? So the people learned to do this by doing a few things. They learned by using a system of irrigation, right, of bringing the water to where they needed it to be. And they built this system of irrigation by creating canals, right? These are just human made waterways. They dug canals to manipulate the water to where they needed it. They also created dams to stop the water from certain areas so that it would flow to others. And so with these advancements in tools and with these advancements in learning how to control the water to serve them, then they were able to have a food surplus. They were able to then become more experts in agriculture by the use of the water and learning how to be able to control the water and being able to control their crops better. They were able to yield more crops in the year. And so now that they were able to have more crops, it gave them a surplus. It gave them extra. And with that extra, they were able to store it. They were also then able to trade it. And that allowed for new roles for the people, right? We talked about that in the characteristics of a civilization. Now that we were having a food surplus, we were able to have a division of labor. Now we had certain groups of people who remained farmers and we became experts at that, but now other people could start to take on new roles, whether now it was focusing on trading that food, right, becoming merchants and trading that surplus. It became those more involved in the government in terms of now that we're storing food, right, we have to keep record of how much food is stored, we have to keep record how it's distributed, we have to keep order and enforce laws of how it's going to be distributed. So this allowed a division of labor to grow. And so these settlements here in the Mesopotamian region now had the ability to develop into these large civilizations. And so this is how the geography of the Fertile Crescent allowed for these settlements to become our first civilizations. All right, thanks for watching.